Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. The Canadian Council of Catholic Bishops has issued a statement apologizing for the Church's involvement in residential schools. The statement says the Catholic Bishops of Canada, quote, express our profound remorse and apologize unequivocally. The bishops say they will provide records that will help identify children buried in unmarked graves at former residential schools. The statement of apology comes from Canadian bishops, not the Pope, but the bishops say they will work with Canadian Indigenous groups and the Holy See on the possibility of a papal visit to Canada. The federal government is appealing another ruling from the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal. It's the latest development in an ongoing case about systemic discrimination in the child welfare system. The ruling orders Ottawa to pay for infrastructure First Nations child welfare agencies need to deliver services. The Justice Department asked the federal court to quash that ruling earlier this afternoon. Child welfare activist Cindy Blackstock filed the complaint 14 years ago. She's disappointed the government is launching this appeal so close to Orange Shirt Day. Canada is reporting an average of more than 4,300 daily new COVID-19 cases a week. The country's top public health official, Dr. Theresa Tam, says an average of 2,200 people are being treated in hospital, and 700 of those are in ICU.
From early August to early September, the average weekly rate of new COVID-19 cases was 11 times higher, while the average weekly rate of hospitalizations was 38 times higher in unvaccinated people than in fully vaccinated people.
Dr. Tam also says there is an average of 36 new deaths per day across the country. Over to Alberta, where intensive care units are being overwhelmed as the fourth wave of COVID-19 hits the province. The Canadian Armed Forces have confirmed that it will be sending in resources to help. Tamara Pimentel joins us from Calgary with the details.
Aircraft and crews are being assembled right now to transfer ICU patients from Alberta to different parts of the country to free up space. That team is expected to be deployed as early as today. Intensive care units here are now at 89% capacity. This not only affects Alberta, but many residents in the Northwest Territories who travel here to access services. Alberta Health Services says right now the only reason we have room is because patients are passing away. Extra ICU beds are being brought in, but the units are seeing more patients than beds created. The majority of those patients have COVID-19. Over 20 are being admitted a day, reaching a new record with 310 patients. 226 of those patients have COVID-19, most of which are unvaccinated. Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Calgary.
Thanks, Tamara. Urban Indigenous vaccine clinics in Winnipeg will continue to operate until the end of the year with the help from the Manitoba government. Indigenous and non-Indigenous leaders got together this morning to announce $2.9 million for the clinics, which will help the urban Indigenous population get vaccines. To date, over 58,000 vaccines have been administered at 5 urban Indigenous centres in Manitoba. The executive director of Winnipeg's Aboriginal Health and Wellness Centre told a powerful story from someone who got their shot at one of the clinics.
Mom, I was standing in line and one of the staff was asking everyone in line if they were Indigenous, and I said I was. The staff took me to the front of the line to get my vaccine shot. Mom, for the first time, because I am Indigenous, I got to go to the front of the line.
We want to hear what you think about this ongoing fourth wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. Here's how you can get in touch with us. You can send your emails to news@aptn.ca or leave a comment on aptnnews.ca. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. In other news, the Assembly of First Nations Quebec Labrador and community chiefs waited months for a scheduled closed-door meeting with Quebec to talk about policing. Except when it finally happened this week, they only got 45 minutes. As our Lindsay Richardson reports, no one knows whether Quebec will come back to the table to make up for lost time.
This is a dilemma for me and my community.
4 years have passed since the Grand Chief of Kabawik First Nation talked policing at the Vien Commission.
As there is no police service in this country or province, then can expect 2 officers to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year. That's unrealistic.
Now in 2021, Heyman sees small improvements.
I now have 4 officers. One is a police, one is the chief of police, and I have 3 non-Indigenous officers who travel into the community and work 1 week on and 1 week off.
The Commission's final report found Indigenous police forces are chronically underfunded. Haymond and other leaders had high hopes ahead of this week's follow-up meeting with Quebec, except it was cut short.
I know that the chiefs of Quebec, would very much like to have a second, political meeting and finish the discussion with the minister prior to, moving forward on the engagement of a technical table, which will look at these issues more in depth and, propose and come back to us with, potential solutions.
Deputy Premier Geneviève Guilbeault was pulled away Thursday to table emergency legislation on anti-vax protests. So the scheduled roundtable on policing ended after 45 minutes. But Quebec insists it's working on other key areas of the Vien report.
Those priorities are first of all, education, which is extremely important, talking about youth protection, and also the well-being of Indigenous women.
However, in the last few months, Gunazadage and Long Point First Nation both started pressing for police budgets, citing tensions with the Sûreté du Québec.
On avait fait une demande d'avoir un médiateur. Il nous suggère de nommer un facilitateur. Et de là, c'est dans le but de créer un service, un point de service pour commencer avec pour la communauté de Wallonie.
Long Point Chief Steve Mateas says a pilot project for an inter-community police force could soon launch, but the ball's in Quebec's court.
Le gouvernement CAQ, il disait comme quoi que d'avoir une relation de nation à nation, de gouvernement à gouvernement, mais ça se traduit comment, ça, dans le dossier de la police, d'abord? C'est ce genre de discussion-là qu'on veut aborder avec le gouvernement, puis qu'on veut clarifier une fois pour toutes, pour qu'on soit capable là, de mieux gouverner, puis de mieux gérer nos affaires dans nos communautés, entre autres comme la sécurité publique.
AFNQL Regional Chief Ghislain Picard could not be reached for comment, but he weighed in on the policing dossier during an interview with Nouvelle Nationale earlier this week.
Il faut vraiment qu'il y ait un financement beaucoup plus permanent et que nos services policiers ne soient pas finalement à la merci d'une entente qui est négociée souvent à la dernière minute et avant même que les fonds soient rendus disponibles. Ça peut nous demander énormément de temps.
APTN reached out to Quebec's Public Security Ministry to find out if the lost time will be made up, but received no response before deadline. Lindsay Richardson, APTN National News, Montreal.
There are more details about the executive director of a First Nation-run child welfare agency in Manitoba who was fired as an audit of the agency's expenses is ongoing. Here's Daryl Stranger.
It's a position he held for 15 years, but as of last week, Sandy Bay CFS Executive Director Richard Delaront has been fired. The Southern Chiefs organization said through a spokesperson that the Southern First Nations Network of Care noticed financial irregularities back in June. Now, at that time, they took over administration of Sandy Bay CFS and began an operational and forensic review. Now, that review revealed that a company owned by Delarond was allegedly leasing property to the Sandy Bay CFS agency, which he was the head of. Now, auditors found the agency had been running a deficit, and so in light of this, the agency stopped paying the credit card bills belonging to Delarond. APTN made numerous attempts to reach Delarond, but there was no response. Auditors are also scrutinizing transactions related to the Children's Special Allowance account. Now, the fund is a special allowance that provides a monthly amount for each child in Canada. When a child is in foster care, that money goes to the agency in charge. Now, none of the allegations have been proven, and an interim report by auditors is expected in the coming weeks, with a final report in December. Daryl Stranger, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Thanks, Daryl. Time now for a quick break. Still to come, there's a problem on one of Canada's most pristine rivers. Welcome back. In northeastern Quebec, the Innu people have recently taken a more active role in the conservation of their most important waterway, the 300-kilometer Moisie River. This has led to introspection on their contributions to the decline of salmon and a search for solutions to maintain the resource in the river they call the Great River. This is the final act of a three-part series by Sylvie Ambrose, narrated by Jeff Dorn.
Reginald Michel is one of the best fly fishers in the Innu Nation, which is saying a lot, because the Innu love to fish. Small as the lures may be, they could have a big impact on the preservation of the salmon population in the Moisie River. And he is not the only one to observe this problem. Michel Villeneuve is the president of the Association for the Protection of the Moisie River. The association has had a history of tension with the Innu, but now there appears to be an interest in working together.
La vision que moi j'ai pour l'association, elle doit passer au-delà de la protection de la ressource. Il y a un phénomène social qui peut se passer aussi. Puis ça peut être un bel exemple de rapprochement puis d'histoire à succès dans les relations allochtones-autochtones.
Oui, le tirage. Betty Michel is 27 and from the nearby Washat-Mac-Mani Yutnanam First Nation. Motivated by the need to protect the natural resources that have supported the Innu for generations. She has just joined the Moisie River Protection Association.
On est rendu là de devoir travailler ensemble, toujours pour la protection de la ressource. On voit qu'il y a un déclin.
Ici en bleu, c'est ce qu'on appelle le club de pêche de la rivière Moisie. C'est comme un club américain privé.
Andre Michel is a biologist and the director of the Territory Protection for the Washat-Mac-Mani Yutnanam Band Council. He says that it is necessary to document this decline in order to find concrete solutions. But currently, there is a lack of data.
Parce qu'on dit que le son est en déclin, mais il n'y a pas eu d'inventaire depuis les années 80. Là.
Michelle is off a little, but not by much. The latest figures on the salmon population were collected in the 1990s. Back then, there were between 4,000 and 6,000 mountain salmon per year. There are several factors contributing to their decline in the Moisie River, including climate change. Michelle thinks that the first step is to change the fisheries code.
Le code de pêche, ça date de quand même d'une vingtaine d'années, puis le code de pêche, c'était pas vraiment un code de pêche chez nous. C'était comme, je te dirais, c'est un code plus blanc, là, c'était des modalités de pêche qui étaient définies, nombre de filets, la grandeur des mailles.
For Villeneuve, it is a question of developing relations with Indigenous people to promote a good agreement.
L'heure n'est pas à la chicane présentement, il faut se rassembler. Il y a une crise de la ressource, puis c'est pas en se chicanant. Pendant qu'on chicane, on n'aide pas à rivière.
But without a fishing code, it's hard for everybody to be on the same wavelength.
Puis ITUM sont en train de travailler sur un nouveau code de pêche. Puis je suis allée les voir, puis on a parlé de ça, puis j'ai proposé dans le fond à ITUM que le président Michel Villeneuve de la PRM vienne qu'on se rencontre.
Salmon fishing is an activity the Innu have been doing since time immemorial. So if they are told to fish differently, such as no longer doing harpoon fishing at night, these are difficult discussions to have.
C'est une ressource épuisable. En roi cadre au domaine, faire la bonne gestion au domaine, c'est ne peut pas si bon. C'est ne peut pas à nous dire.
Michel has not only spent years creating lures, he also started programs that encourage women to take up fishing because he thinks it's important to involve them in protecting salmon.
La pêche féminine do dedilho, c'est formé d'autant.
Michelle says protecting the natural balance of the Moisie River is a collaborative effort. Bit by bit, young Innu learn traditional fishing methods, including the mindset to catch only what you need. Some say the likelihood of a good catch has decreased due to overfishing by American tourists.
On fait de la protection sur la rivière, ça veut dire aussi contrôler les pratiques de pêche qui pourraient être abusives ou néfastes pour le saumon. Notre rôle s'arrête là quand même parce qu'on a quand même juste un petit bout de rivière où est-ce qu'on travaille.
But it appears the Innu need to look in the mirror as well.
Salut Reginald. Salut Michel.
According to experts, one of the most harmful factors is netting. According to Michelle, net fishing was only done as a last resort after harpoon fishing failed. For his part, Andre Michel has some projects to increase the sustainability of salmon. One is encouraging the practice of releasing the fish after capture, as well as the introduction to fly fishing for children. For next year, he is also working on a technique to count the salmon.
C'est une technique qu'on appelle marquage, capture, recapture. C'est sûr que dans la cage, on va marquer les saumons. Après ça, on va les laisser retourner dans la rivière. Puis, au niveau de la pause migratoire du 1031, ils vont être scannés. C'est comme une puce électronique. On va savoir c'est quel saumon qui a été marqué avec le numéro.
For Reginald Michel, the same patience and care he takes to make his fishing lures needs to be applied to restoring the health of the Moisie River, even if the coming restrictions cause problems for the Innu.
Pour nous, c'est 15 ans, ça va devenir une rivière à anguilles.
And even if there are some who will never understand the relationship between the Innu and salmon, those nearest to the cause agree. If nothing is done, the Innu identity is at risk, as is the natural abundance of Michishippu, the Great River. A story by Sylvie Amboise, APTN National News, Newtonham, Quebec.
Who hasn't fallen in love with that song this week? What a great series. Time to step aside for one more quick break. Still to come, Canada's Royal Mint issues a new gold loonie commemorating the people who found those first few nuggets setting off the Yukon Gold Rush. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. One of our regular contributors, Janice Gladish, sent us this photo from Quadra Island in British Columbia. She snapped this near a campsite at the Wee Cay campground. Thanks, Janice. Beautiful work there. If you're out this weekend, be sure to take a photo and submit it to share@aptn.ca for the chance to be featured as our next photo of the day. And Saturday's weather forecast is looking pretty good. Here's a look at it. Starting on the East Coast, sunny and 22 in Charlottetown, 21 under the sun in Halifax, 19 with rain in Kuujjuaq, 20 and cloudy in Nain, 25 in Montreal, 23 with cloud in Chibougamau, 15 with showers in Sault Ste. Marie, 21 with rain in North Bay, rain and 15 for Thunder Bay, showers and 13 in Sioux Lookout, 10 with rain for God's Lake, sunny and 14 in Norway House, 19 for Winnipeg and Gimli, 21 in Brandon, 20 and sunny for Regina, Yorkton and Saskatoon, 20 in Meadow Lake, 11 with rain in Stony Rapids. In northern Alberta, 14 with showers for Fort Chip, 16 and rain in Fort McMurray, 23 under the sun in Medicine Hat, 22 and sunny for Lethbridge, 19 for Vancouver and Victoria, 22 in Kamloops, 16 with showers in Prince George, rain and 11 for Dease Lake, snow and +3 for Old Crow, flurries and 0 in Rock River, 9 with rain in Yellowknife and Norman Wells, +1 with snow for Sax Harbor, 3 and flurries for Inuvik, 3 with rain in Chesterfield, 5 in Baker Lake, snow and -2 in Resolute, 0 in Joe Haven. Finally tonight, the Canadian Mint has launched a new $1 commemorative coin in honor of the 125th anniversary of the Klondike Gold Rush in the Yukon. The coin features the 4 people credited with the discovery, 3 of whom were Tlingit and Tagish descent. The Canadian Mint says the coin is a more balanced history of the Klondike Gold Rush, an event that displaced many First Nations people and disrupted their culture and traditional ways of life. Well, you may have noticed my APTN orange shirt pin this week. We just want to give you a heads up that next Thursday we will have a special newscast to reflect the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. APTN, the network, will also have a full day of special programming. That's Thursday, September 30th. That is all the time we have for your APTN National News for this Friday. For news anytime, you can visit our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for being with us. Have a great night.